video, we will learn how can we use Excel to generate the frequency distribution for quantitative data, especially when we have a classes that has zero count. So if that's the case, by default, Excel actually will not show you those empty, those classes with zero count. So you have to know how to add those classes back to your frequency distribution. So here we have 120 observations, so there are about 120 students GPA in the first year. And to help you to create this frequency distribution, I already preset out everything. So for this case, let's see the minimum value among all the classes is 0, and the highest value among all the classes will be 4, and then the class width will be 0.2. So based on the information we have here, so we can very quickly to develop our frequency distribution. So first, under the Insert tab, and we will choose the pivot table on the left-hand side. So after you select the pivot table, so the only thing you need to do is to select your data from your data set. So first, make sure you are highlighting the box called the table and the range. And then in this case, we'll select the A column. So when you select the data, make sure you will include the labels. It's very, very important you will include label if you're using the pivot table method to create your frequency distribution. So after I select my first column with the label, now I can click OK. So now after I click OK, you will see on the right hand side there is a new field open up. It's called the pivot table fields. So you will start to set up your pivot table. So first of all, in the first field, you will see there is a label called a GPA. So the reason this GPA show up here is because when you select the data, you include the label. So what happens if you don't include label? So if you don't include label GPA, and then instead of seeing GPA here, you will see 3.897. So one thing you have to know, by default, and the Excel, we will assume the first row in your data set is the label. So if you don't include a label, you actually make a mistake because 3.897 become your label. You actually will missing one observation, so that will be totally wrong. So now let's look at our field here. Now we will start to create our frequency distribution. So first, move the mouse on the GPA, so then the cross will become the cross with the 4 arrows. So now you can left click the mouse and hold it and drag it down to rows. So now you can see on Excel you're creating one more new row called row labels. So what you can find is they are the unique observation from your data set, but they are ascendingly ordered. So from the smallest value to the largest. So now we're gonna drag in my GPA again. So this time we drag GPA to values. So now you will see the change. So we add another column, they call the sum of the GPA. And so before we are doing an adjustment under the sum of the GPA, we first look at the row labels. So if you try to think about what we learned in the class. So for the frequency distribution, the first row is supposed to be our classes. So in this case, already define the classes. So smallest value is 0, largest value is 4. The class width will be 0.2. So how can we adjust the row label so that it will indicating the class is already defined? So what you need to do is on the row labels, find any of the value, right click the mouse, and then find an option called a group. And after you select group, and you will see this dialog called grouping. So the starting ad is the minimum value among all the classes, and any ad is the maximum value among all the classes. So in this case, the minimum value among all the classes is 0. So you're changing 0.5 to 0. And you don't need to change the largest value because it's 4. However, you need to change the class width. So instead of 1, you should type in 0.2 because that's how I define in this case. So I type in 0.2. Then you can click OK. So now you can see this is the classes we need. So 0.2 to 0.6. So the class width is 0.2. However, on the right hand side, you will find they are actually is not what we want because the frequency is supposed to be integer, but they all have decimal places. So obviously they are not the frequency. So what happened here is actually they are summing all the value together. So summing all the observation that belong to that class together. So that's why you got 0.5, 3.069. So what you need to do here is under the sum of the GPA, choose one of the value and right click the mouse, and then you will choose show the summarize the value by, and you will choose count. So you will choose count. So now you will see all your decimal places gone. So what is showing you here is integer. And then you also can find at the end of the cell, it is 120, so which is our sample size. So that's exactly what we want. So now this is not the table we want yet, because you can find, as I defined, it's starting from 0, ending by 4, and class width by 0.2. We're actually missing the classes such as 0 to 0.2, 0.2 to 0.4, and also 0.6 to 0.8, 0.8 to 1, 1 to 1.2, 1.2 to 1.4. So they are all missing. So the reason they're missing is because they have a 0 count. So that's not what we want. So we need to do an adjustment. So how can we do it? So first of all, under the row labels, you can select any row under the row labels, and then right click the mouse, and then move your mouse down, and you will choose called the field settings. You will select the field settings, and you'll select field settings. So now you will see the two tab, subtotal and filters, or layout. So make sure you will choose the layout and print tab. So in this option, you will see called a show item with no data. So currently it's unchecked. So which means if there is no data, they will actually just eliminate the rows. So that's not what we want. So we need to make sure even there are no data, they still show it. So that's why we have to check this box called the show items with no data. So now you can click OK. Now you can see our table actually got expanded. So we're adding more classes. So those classes show up because they have the 0 count. But obviously we do want to put number in the 0 counts. So currently they are empty cell. So we need to do one more modification so that we can show people that's the table we want. So under the count of the GPA, you can choose any cell, and then right click the mouse, and you will choose the pivot table options. So after you select the pivot table options, and you will find under the layout and format tab, there's an option called the format. Currently, format cell show empty, so that's why for the empty cell we see nothing because it's nothing. So now instead of nothing, we should type in 0 because we want the empty cell show 0. That's 0 counts. So now we can click OK. Now you will see this is our frequency distribution with complete classes, and also all the empty cell is filled by 0.